Hello. Today I'm making a video that's a little bit different for this channel and what I have on this channel as of now. Um, it's going to be a bit of an introduction, and I am starting a new music series of original music on this page. And it's going to be a little bit more than just releasing or sharing my original songs. So I'm going to talk about that, but I also felt that the biggest thing for me in sharing my music is sharing a message, and everybody has a different life path and a different experience and a different message, different things that they have taken away um, from what they've been through. And I feel as though I'm definitely like a type of person that has lived a lot of lives in this life. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about why I write music to begin with. I think I would be doing myself and my message a disservice to not acknowledge some of the reasons of why I even write music, or why I even do music, or why I started those things and what that looked like for me, in terms of creating, and that being I don't want to say coping mechanism, but at times in my life, it was definitely a way to channel a lot of unprocessed feelings and a lot of difficult feelings. So I'm going to talk first about the creative series that I'm going to start on this channel. I have, I think, 3 or 4 maximum original songs on this channel. And I don't think I'm going to like take those down or anything. But I definitely feel like in the past few months I've stepped into a different level of confidence in projecting my voice, especially. And to me, my lyrics are something that are incredibly important to me. I saw a wonderful video by Ayanda Stood on YouTube that was talking about the reason, that we seek to create certain things, especially when we look at a specific creative outlet or field and we feel that there are different things that are not as prevalent as they should be or missing. We feel even more driven to what we're crafting, because we feel that it is something new that this space needs. And it's really difficult, and I really have struggled with feeling like there is anything for me, especially like as an individual, to contribute towards music, and especially on a larger scale than just playing for myself. And one thing that I've felt, especially in the past few years with social media and this image that we can cultivate online, I feel like there is definitely just a significant amount of music, or significantly less amount of music, that is, the lyrics have depth and meaning and a story. And we can hear that, still in some artists' music and everything. And I think there is a place for everything, even if it's not my personal preference. But I definitely felt that lyrically and storytelling and having a clear-cut message, I think, again, like being able to cultivate your own message from somebody's music, or music maybe not even having a particular message, just being fun to listen to and everything. Cool. I think that there is a space for that. But in terms of what I am hoping to contribute to my creation is a strong, clear message. And I feel like, again, I haven't necessarily been able to showcase that here, because I've definitely struggled with I've struggled with perfectionism that has kind of kept my voice and my projection and everything pretty inhibited. And I think I'm just now kind of stepping into deconditioning from that perfectionism and feeling more empowered in projecting my message. So basically, my creative process for these next this next like series. I have about 40 songs that are originals, and I think as I wrote more and more, I felt less of a drive or a need to revisit the older songs, especially because as a writer and an artist, my art has taken on more of a defined like style and everything, and there has been a dramatic shift in my style and everything in my whole process since I started writing. But I actually thought to myself, that would be, I think, a really, really cool thing to share the progress. And I don't think I'm gonna do it linear, but I definitely would like to share pretty much all of the music that I have right now. And within that, I think expressing a level of vulnerability of my feelings and what I was really going through and experiencing to kind of alchemize that into each song. So I think in presentation wise, I'm going to talk about what led up to the song, what my life kind of looked like then, the feelings and emotions and experiences that I was going through. Probably breaking down the lyrics just a little bit, at least like reading them, just because I think it is different to hear them verbally versus, in music, we can take a lot of creative liberties for our delivery, and sometimes it makes it a little harder to hear the message without like interpreting the words separately, seeing them or hearing them. So I think that's going to be kind of how that looks, and then obviously playing the song. I keep saying, it's okay. Let me just take a moment. I've been trying to be a lot more grounded in my presence. It's something that is incredibly unfamiliar to me. I'm also, I felt a lot of apprehension about sharing my art, and I think I was fear-mongered a bit when I initially started writing last year, and I had people that were in the music business and discouraging me from sharing online because my art would be at risk of being taken or anything like that, like copied. And I was really, really afraid of that. And I will be completely transparent when I say that I don't want to dwell on it because it is something that I have already been moving through, and it has been incredibly difficult to move through. But I had a friend who was the only person I've ever taught how to play an original song of mine to, and they did end up copying it. And we had a falling out, and they were very, very quick to produce their own song. And at first I was so frustrated, and a piece of me is just, feels really, really betrayed by that. I didn't feel like, as artists, and especially small artists, and as somebody that knew me and my story, I felt incredibly betrayed and discouraged by their willingness to do so. But honestly, I will say that I think that it's been a blessing in disguise. I ended up writing some really, really beautiful music after the fact, out of like a place of kind of deep frustration. And I actually was able to channel a lot of like, as a woman and growing up as like a girl, it was really, really hard to be angry and to express anger, or to like get it out of my system, because it was seen as unacceptable. And it actually helped me learn how to get in touch with those parts of myself and release a lot of those feelings that had just kind of been like sitting stagnant in my body. And I think now it's given me a lot of, I guess in terms of what my music has needed for me to feel more empowered, like sharing it, was I kind of realized like, the one thing I'm missing is the audacity. I'm missing the audacity to share it. And I think something that I also realized within that is, I believe strongly in what I write as a message. And that is something that the meaning that comes to me and comes over me and comes through me, and the message behind that, the art form of it, is something that cannot be replicated, in the exact same way. And I think a big thing for me is that it kind of helped me to learn or like recognize that despite my ego or my, perfectionism or my pride or anything, I do believe very strongly in the message that I speak about in all of my music, whether that's I write some music that is geared towards social injustice and in the need for unity and love. And the majority of my music and why I started writing was working through grief and processing all of these parts of myself that I had never been able to address in my life. And I kind of, over the past year and a half that I've been writing now, have worked through so many emotions in so many different phases of my life, and to have such a deep awareness about it definitely played a big factor in being able to write a clear message that acknowledges these things with a very deep level of vulnerability. And that was really hard because I did deal with external factors that have made it discouraging to continue sharing that. But I actually think that this last circumstance with it, in a lot of ways, just has empowered me that I can't stop what other people are going to do. And I have had this recognition, and maybe I just needed it to hit me really hard in the face. I can't stop what other people are going to do. That isn't really any of my business at the end of the day. And that's not my burden to take on what somebody else is going to do. And the only thing that I can do is empower myself to share my art and to believe in what I am doing and what I am creating, and to stand 10 toes down for the message. And the message is bigger than all of it, everything. And I think that the message behind my music is so universal. And in expressing my circumstances, the only thing that I've ever wanted to come from that is that it offers a space, whether or not I even have anyone be receptive to it or see it or understand it or value it is different, but to offer a space that shares my experiences with such a vulnerability and such an understanding and awareness of my emotions and my feelings, and kind of stepping away from the black and white thinking of it as something that has been a major lesson in my life, and recognizing all of the contributing factors in the nuance between everything, and the give and take and the dichotomy, the contradiction, the paradoxes, everything. And I've wanted to reflect on my circumstances and how that has looked for me at such a vulnerable level, that it provides that space that other people might feel empowered to give that to themselves, and to potentially, use some of the same recognitions. Or I think a big thing in talking about social media and society is we cultivate such a image of perfection, or what we want other people to see. And in real life, we mask, what we want other people to see, what we are conditioned to think is acceptable. And I have learned how to, in many ways, it's a never-ending learning, but in many ways in my life, I have learned how to step back from the ability to mask even, and had to face parts of myself that I never wanted to acknowledge, that even now I feel so much shame and disgust in just all of these pieces of who I've been and even who I am. And I think coming around to this time in my life, having processed these things for a while now, I'm really starting to recognize just all of it as the cultivation of my humanity and of my creation, and they are one in the same. And so I think being able to break down some of those things while sharing individual pieces is something that would be empowering to me, and my message that I would love, you know, at the opportunity to reach people through an art form that has a deeper message. And I don't really have anything necessarily to gain from that other than it gives me a sense of empowerment, I think, now to take back a lot of my energy and a lot of my power in life, and feel like I can share my experiences and my art and everything, and share myself without the need to restrict what that should look like or sound like or be like or anything. And so those are kind of the factors of this new project and why I am deciding to put myself out there in that way. Again, it is just a lot, and I wanted to be able to articulate that a little bit more, just so then, you know, eventually if people see those videos and are a little bit, you know, the process is a bit not jarring, but just different than what most or sharing original songs look like on this platform. I just wanted to have a video to reference of a little bit of my backstory with it. And speaking of backstory, I have a story like everybody else, and again, I think I would be doing myself and my message a disservice to not fully, in many ways, you know, acknowledge my reasons for creating the art that I do now. So I'm gonna take a breath and try to ground myself a little bit before, because this is diving into some harder experiences. So yeah, I'm gonna take some breaths and drink some tea. When I decided to do this video today, I really struggled with how much I should go into, what I should go into, if any, of my backstory, because there is a lot, and I've had to make peace with the fact that feeling seen in my experience is something that only I can offer myself. But again, I think that what I've been through and what my life has looked like and what it has taught me is a significant piece of what I create and why I create it. So to try to keep this as minimal as possible in terms of information, a big piece of my story is that I was adopted as a baby. I was adopted when I was a little over a year. And growing up, I had a very hard time. I started struggling with panic attacks at a very, very early age, like 5 or 6, which is incredibly young. And I think a lot of that stemmed from this lack of security and stability and connection that I didn't really have in the same way that a lot of people do in very early years of my life. And in struggling with mental health conditions so overtly as a child, it created a lot of conflict and a lot of strain in my family system that I was living in then. And there were other factors that were not, you know, necessarily existent because of my circumstances, but maybe they were exacerbated by my circumstances. It's not really in my best interest to speculate one way or the other. You know, I've made peace with all of it, and making peace is, for me now in my life, being distanced and in cultivating my own family and home and environment to heal myself and empower myself. And but I have made peace in all of the ways that I can with those times. My family system was incredibly dysfunctional, and there was some of the biggest factors in that was the lack of boundaries and the inability to find autonomy and develop autonomy within myself growing up, like all of my years. And that looked a lot of different ways, and that's not necessarily important to this context. But this inability to have privacy and have my own space and everything started to become, it became registered in my awareness pretty early on. And I loved music as a kid. I loved music. I loved the Beatles so much. I had a hyper fixation on the Beatles when I was in probably, I think it started about 2nd or 3rd grade. I didn't have like decor on my walls, so I just took like notebook paper and like ripped it out and just like wrote with like a marker like Beatles facts and just like hung them all over my walls. So I loved the Beatles. But within the Beatles, I really loved George Harrison. Loved him. And so I decided that I wanted to play guitar. And so I started learning on like a baby electric tiny little guitar when I was in the 3rd grade. So I was about 11, I think, somewhere around then. So I was about 11 years old. I decided to start playing guitar because I really loved the Beatles. And in elementary school, we played recorders and everything, and I thought I was just the coolest. I was the best recorder player in my class. And so then going into middle school, we had the opportunity to join band. I decided I wanted to play the flute, and I realized that in band, I could stay after school. I could go to school early. I could be in the room practicing my instrument during other classes. Like, I was a very quick learner, so I just finished my work for other classes. The band teacher would let me go hang out in a practice room and play my instrument, and I loved it. I loved how music had given me a space to take my own space and to just feel, you know, like it was just such a spiritual experience for me always. And so I realized that doing music meant that at home I would be able to close my door and have my own space. And I think that especially drove me to be practicing all of the time. And actually, really quick to revisit, when I started playing guitar in elementary school, I had a guitar teacher who was like this biker guy. Like, he was good at guitar, he was great at guitar, but I don't think that he was meant, like, teaching the instrument is a whole nother thing. He was awesome though. I mean, he taught me just a few basic chords, and that's really all I needed then. And I would hum along to the like lyrics as I was playing the chords, and he encouraged me to start singing. And so I did, and I started singing at performances, and then I started doing competitions and everything. So I started getting some actual like stage experience, and I would just do covers, and I was seeing a lot of like success in those competitions, which now, you know, I've detached from like external, you know, but as a kid, that was really cool to me. I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. I was incredibly shy, but getting up on stage, it was a whole different, you know, experience that would come over me. I'm like getting emotional talking about it. And it just kind of broke me out of my shell in a lot of ways, that I was so shy and so quiet and so hard on myself and critical of myself. And I think to have that, like, I needed that external validation then, as a kid especially. So I get older, I'm in middle school doing band and everything, and I did my last competition of singing with my guitar in 7th grade. And I remember my voice started to change, because even women during puberty, your voice, or girls, your voice does change. Your register changes, whether that's for me, you know, it just gave me like more power behind my voice, but I didn't really know how to work with that. And so I felt discouraged, and I just felt like my passion for it was dwindling, and I didn't want to be on stage in that way anymore. And I was just awkward. Everything was awkward. So, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. I kept doing band, and I did band up through high school. I had there was a select choir in high school, an honors choir, and I decided that I was going to audition for it just out of the blue when I was a sophomore in high school. And I got in, and right off the bat, I did not sing. I did not want to sing, really. I was just like too afraid to sing. Everyone around me was like confident and good at what they did in my eyes, so feeling like I'm not fitting in there, and that I kind of made a mistake by wanting to do this. And slowly but surely, with the help of my section and the awesome like girls in my section, building friendships with them helped me to build more empowerment in my voice, and learning from them and everything. And so I did honors choir for my last 3 years of high school. I continued to do band all the way through high school. I started doing the audition process for college to try to get a music scholarship. And the professor that I was seeing there for private lessons my senior year encouraged me to start learning opera, because that was my best opportunity to get a scholarship. And so I learned how to do opera in a very small time frame, less than a year, and I got the scholarship for the vocal department at the college that I was looking to attend. I accepted it and everything, and within the first month of me being there, I damaged my vocal cords. And so I was diagnosed with vocal nodules. I pretty much lost my ability to even like speak, and my speaking voice was significantly impacted by the damage of my vocal cords. So I did not, I started getting really discouraged, and then my mental health started struggling severely in college. And I think a lot of it came from the fact this was the first time in my life that I was independent in some ways and had the space to be my own person. And that led me down a lot of dark paths, I will be honest, because I was not able to make mistakes and have autonomy in my upbringing. And so now that I have all of this freedom, I took it too far because I didn't know who I was or who I wanted to be. I thought I needed to be this or I should be this. And I think that the two parts of that, knowing who I am and feeling like I can't be that, and the part of me that feels like I have to, whatever, it just kind of clashed. And I think that really started to impact my mental health significantly. I mean, I can wholeheartedly acknowledge that. And so I'm feeling discouraged. I stopped doing music. I dropped out of college after my sophomore year. And then there was a few years that I just went through the motions. I tried to figure out what I wanted to do. I went to EMT school. I worked at a daycare. I worked at restaurants. I worked at bars, like just trying to figure out what made sense for me. And none of it felt right. None of it felt right at all. And so I started to, I think, push myself into this kind of willing denial about everything, about my circumstances. I did not feel that my situation was healthy in a lot of ways, but I also didn't feel like I had the capacity to change that or to break away from my circumstances and find my own autonomy in a healthy way. And so I didn't do music for quite some time, and things were getting really, really hard in the house that I was living in then. And one day in November of 2024, also I dropped out of college in 2022, the beginning of 2022. So there's a 2.5 year span here where or 1.5 year span that I was just kind of going through the motions, drinking heavily, smoking all the time, just like completely not even, I don't even know how often I was sober in those years. I was struggling so hard with all of the things that were kind of surfacing within me emotionally and mentally, and the inability to face those things within those circumstances. So 2024, November, I get a text from my cousin, my biological cousin, that my biological mother is in town. And I was working that day, and I just broke down in the back, like knowing that I have to go see her. And I didn't really know anything about her or her circumstances. And sorry. And a big, like the biggest piece of me just felt that I needed to go. And so I went, and meeting her was like nothing that I could possibly explain. There was such a deep connection and a knowing that I didn't know what that was like, because I had gone so long without it until I experienced it. And I think that is something that when you grow up with your biological parents, there is just an innate connection that biological family does have. And I don't want to say unfortunately in all cases, but sometimes it's hard, to recognize that there is just such a deep connection there. And I know that a lot of people struggle with that, but not having it was something that I didn't understand what that was going to feel like until I met her. And I'm 22 then, and she was 44, I think. 44. And meeting her, we looked the same, and I had kind of known that, but it was like looking into a mirror to be there face to face. We sounded the same, we had the same mannerisms, we both had given ourselves prison tats, like our own tattoos. We had all the same jobs, the same interests. She always wore a bunch of rings, and so did I, so we both just like had a bunch of jewelry on, like crystals and everything. And I cannot express how deeply that knowing and connection ran, and it immediately started making things in my life even harder, because meeting her, there was just such a deep understanding and just such a deep feeling of unconditional love that she had for me as her daughter that I had never felt before. I had never felt that before, and I was 22, almost 23, and I'm feeling this for the first time. And everything that I was in denial about, and everything that I tried to convince myself of, and everything, like, it just shattered. I couldn't hold on to that anymore, because here, this is somebody that sees me truly and wants to see me and loves me and wants to love me. And feeling that and experiencing that, there was no going back. And so things became even harder at my previous family system, and there was definitely a lot of animosity towards her that I was taught growing up. And so it's just like being caught in the middle for me. And I kept talking to her very infrequently because of my circumstances. I didn't know what to do, and I was incredibly overwhelmed by all of the factors. And we continued to talk, and there was one morning that things had gone really, really bad in my home, and I just got in my car. It was like freezing snowstorm. I got in my car, and I'm just crying so hard, and I'm like out loud just like, God, please, like, please give me an answer. I can't keep living like this. I can't keep doing this. Like, please, please give me something. And I got to this gas station. I needed to pull over. So I just got there. I needed to get out of the house. I'm here at this gas station, and all of a sudden, I mean, it's like 5 or 6 in the morning. I get a text from my mom, and she says, you know, can I call you? And so I call her immediately, and she said, I had a dream last night that your great grandma Jean, my biological great grandma Jean, who my middle name is named after her, so there's always been a tie. She was she was the only other musician really in my family, like in terms of playing an instrument and everything. And my mom said, you know, I had a dream that she came to me, and my mom was in the hospital. My mom had very, very like far along, my mom had terminal cancer, and it was very far along at that point. So she was hospitalized that morning, and she said, you know, I had this dream that your grandma Jean came, and she sat at the end of the bed, and she told me that, you know, the people here told me that there's nothing else they can do for me, and that I'm going to need a caretaker. And, you know, your grandma came to me and said, just ask her. And I've asked everyone else, and nobody else can do it. Like, this is crazy, but would you want to come be my caretaker? Like, I will give you a place to stay and everything. And immediately, yes, I don't care about what everything's going to look like. This is a decision that I'm making for myself. Yes, I would love to be there for you. And so I pick up my life within a week and move down, and am taking care of my mom. And I didn't really have many musical ties for my, like, doing music at that time, but I did bring down like a beater 12-string guitar just to have something if I wanted it. And within about a week of being there, my cat that I brought with me, that I had gotten when I was in college going through my mental health struggles, and had with me throughout all of those really, really hard times, within about a week of me being with my mom there, he was attacked, and I had to put him down. And that experience was the first time in my life that, I mean, I took it really hard, and it's still really hard to think about, especially just because it was so difficult to witness and unexpected. And my mom was pretty much in a comatose state during that time frame as well. And so this was the first time in my life that, although it was really, really hard, and I took it really hard for a couple days, I realized, you know, I can't let this emotion overtake me in the ways that I normally would have in the past, especially because I have to take care of my mom. And it was the first time that, sitting with grief and sadness, that I recognized the only thing I can do from this experience is continue to move forward, and to move forward in a way that's even, I mean, like, it's a cat, okay, you know, he's my cat, but he loved me so unconditionally when I did not have that from, like, the people in my life. And in a lot of ways, being so deeply, like, loved by an animal, you know, being able to even sense that from an animal, it made me feel, you know, in those years, that I wasn't a complete lost cause, and that I was still capable of being loved and appreciated, even in all of my mess. And so losing him, I recognized that, you know, maybe he's a cat, but to me, he would want me to live more and more empowered. He was so brave, like, stupidly brave, and thought he was just, like, the biggest, baddest, like, animal in the whole kingdom. And I think I really did learn from that, you know, in a way that I could take a page from his book in terms of being more courageous in my life. And so through that experience, I wanted to move forward more and more empowered in my life. And it kind of woke me up to the fact that this is real. This is where I'm at in my life. Only thing I can do is change how I move forward. And I'm getting emotional about it because I think it's probably one of the lesser processed things that I've faced in the past few, like, within all of the loss I've experienced in the past couple of years. Just because I was taking care of my mom, and the whole time that I'm taking care of my mom, I was grieving her, you know, even before she passed away, I was grieving her, because watching somebody go slowly from terminal illness and being there every minute, every step of the way, you see the decline as it happens. There is such a level of grief that sets in at every, I mean, being aware of every single step of her life kind of, you know, fading. And so I couldn't really process the grief of losing my animal. And I also thought that, you know, to a lot of people, it doesn't make a lot of sense, you know? And I think I had never felt so connected to another living thing in my life until I had gotten him. And he was an amazing animal. And like I said, it was just a lot of the things about the unexpected. And so the day after I had to put him down, I woke up that morning and, deciding how I wanted to move forward, I decided to pick up my guitar. And I didn't feel like there was any song on the planet that could resonate with the feelings that I was experiencing. And like I said, you know, grief in that time was grieving my mother also before she was gone, because knowing that she was going to be was something inevitable that I was having to sit with all of the time. And so I wrote my first original song, and I will, let me get the lyrics of this one really quickly. I have my pile of music next to me. But I decided to write a song, and it just flowed in a way that I did not know that I was capable of. I did not know that I even had the ability to write music. I hadn't played my guitar in a significantly long time, and I just felt so drawn to write something. And the first day, the day after, I wrote a lot of my prayers, and then the second day I returned to finish the piece, and I decided to have a key change and have it be the answer to my prayers. And it was just a song about grief. I called it Prayers Beyond the Ashes, and in writing it, there was so much emotion because I was, you know, processing that this song, I'm telling myself I'm only writing for my cat, but I'm not. I'm writing this song for my mom too. And she's lived for about 2 months, 2.5 months after I went down there. But being there in that time, I faced so much grief. And I think in a lot of ways, the experience with my cat, it was meant to be preparation in a lot of ways, and in terms of a lot of the things that I had to recognize. You know, I can't sit here only in the sadness of losing them. All I can do is empower myself to live in the ways their love and their understanding of me and trust in me would empower me to do so. So I'm gonna read the lyrics to this one. I'll probably do a different video another day, actually playing it, but I know that I can't pray for change, so claim acceptance, claim my faith. You give me reasons to believe beyond my doubts through the deceit. I know the heavens hear my prayers, I know the angels hear my cries. God, grant me all the strength I have, the strength I can to say goodbye. No matter what, I will look up and live my life through your love. I gain my knowledge through these trials, the praying hours to the skies. Again, I beg you, hear my cries, bless me with purpose for my life. And then I did a instrumental section, and in the middle of it, I felt like it was empty. So I put in an affirmation that I prayed, I'm sure, thousands and thousands of times that I was there, which is, there is nothing stronger than what we can overcome. And the actual mantra that I said to myself in those months and prayed over my mom and my brother and me was, there is nothing stronger than what we are capable of overcoming, because there is nothing stronger than what we have already overcome and what we will overcome. And it was something that my mom would say, you know, it's hard to be the strong one, the one that pushes through so much, and it doesn't feel as empowering as it might sound to be strong, because to be strong you have to have gone through so much or been so deeply affected by so much that is the only way to cultivate like true strength is through trial and choosing to persevere and choosing to take away the things that you can. And my faith was so important to me. I mean, it's still incredibly important to me, but it was such a vital piece in everything that I experienced there. And so I decided after the key change, I shifted from minor to major, and the end of the song is, make peace with change to fight for your strength. There is no mountain high enough to stop your path to God. Live by your light and you will see that you are loved. And that was the biggest thing that my mom always told me, was to trust my heart, follow my heart. And I have a letter that she wrote to me. She wrote letters to family members after the day that she and I reunited, and she wrote all over it, all over the whole thing, like, follow your heart, follow your heart, follow your heart. And it's something that I'm still learning how to do, because it takes so much courage. And I think in all of the lessons and all of the hardship and all of the grief that I experienced then, the only thing that I could rationally recognize to take away from it was that a need to believe in myself and to empower myself, and that is something that I can give to myself, that my mom struggled to feel that she could give to herself. She struggled with the guilt and the shame of everything that everybody else thought and wanted her to feel, and she didn't feel that she could be empowered in her circumstances enough to choose herself. And in choosing myself, I have struggled with the shame of feeling that it's selfish, being conditioned to think that it's selfish is not a unique experience. That is like one of the main pieces of how our entire society functions. And it's something that, choosing myself, writing this song, after that I continued to write more and more while I was there. And after she passed away, and every place that I lived after the fact, I just kept writing and kept writing and kept writing. And I just felt that this is a way that I can choose myself. It's just choosing to believe in my art despite the history that I've had with it, and all the shutdown and the negative experiences that I've had with it, this is something that has come back to me in the hardest time of my life, and with such a clear, deep message with everything that I write. And so in everything that I've experienced, losing my mom, she passed away on April 19th of 2024, 2025. I forgot what year it is right now. But since then, feeling empowered to choose myself and to believe in myself and believe in my message is something that has been incredibly hard. And the way that I channel it is through my music. And the whole reason that I can even have that is because of my music. And I hope to share more about what this past year and a half of transformation in my life, of my perspective, of my self-image, which struggled so deeply for so long. I feel like my songs are a documentation of that, and I feel empowered by my ability to be vulnerable despite despite the discomfort that I feel in putting myself in this position, and especially putting myself in this position to not reach anybody, and trying to make peace with that, and trusting that belief in my message is for a reason. I grieve all of it. The life I lived before, the life that I thought I would have, the life that I thought I wanted. I grieve my mom, I grieve my cat, I grieve family on all different fronts, and I grieve who I used to be. And the only thing that I can willingly choose to take away from all that I've lost is that there is nothing that can hold me back from feeling empowered in my circumstances, even though I kind of don't want it, and I don't feel like I deserve it. I don't feel like I deserve it, and every time I think that, I know that my mom is telling me that I do. And as much as I could recognize that a reflection in her, I think being so similar, the two of us, we could give ourselves a lot of grace. All these things that I struggle to accept and feel okay with in myself, I see them in her, and it's so beautiful in her. And I think having that reflection was always meant to be such a monumental guide in my life, of that all of these things that I struggle to accept in myself, I could see in her, and I didn't think twice about the fact that she shouldn't, hold it against herself or anything. And so I'm looking forward to sharing more of my art, because it is such a big piece of me, and it's been so hard to want to share it or feel okay in sharing it because it is such a big piece of my heart. But I believe so strongly in vulnerability, and a need to be vulnerable, and a need to believe in something greater than myself, even if it's only a greater version of myself. I'm gonna take a second. That was really, really heavy. I don't talk about those experiences very much anymore. I did a lot last year, and I was very, very, very lucky to be blessed with support systems that allowed me to be in touch with those experiences and those feelings. And now I am recognizing that it's always going to be some extent of pain when thinking about those things, but I am trying very deeply to accept myself and my feelings and my experiences as a way to be empowered. And this is only a small step in it for me, but it is a big step at the same time. And thank you so much. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for being here. And I hope that, if anything, this helps you to feel more empowered in your creation and more empowered in beginning to accept your vulnerability as your strength. I look forward to sharing my first song and story soon. Definitely won't be as long of a video as this one, but thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for choosing yourself.